In this tutorial, I'd like to show you how to use Descartes' rule to describe the possible real zeros of a function. In other words, how many zeros can this function possibly have? And there's a different method for looking at how many positive real zeros it has versus how many negative real zeros it could have. So we can see that the first term here is positive, and the sign changes to a negative. But then the sign stays negative for the third term and switches to positive for the fourth term. We want to keep track of every time the sign changes, either from positive to negative or negative to positive. And then finally, for the last term there, the constant, the sign remains positive. So in all, we have 2 times in this function where the sign changes from one sign to another. That tells us that we can either A, have 2 possible positive real zeros, or we can have 0 positive real zeros. And how I got the 0 was simply I just subtracted 2 from that number. Now, if we had gotten 4 sign changes, the possibilities would be 4 positive, 2 positive, or 0 positive zeros. If I had gotten 3 sign changes, it would be either 3 possible zeros or 1 possible 0. So that's all talking about positive zeros. Let's now look at how we would find the number of possible negative zeros. Now, for possible negative zeros, what I'm first going to want to do is figure out what f of negative x is. And with this function, it's going to be negative x to the fourth minus 3 times negative x cubed minus 5 times negative x squared plus 2 times negative x plus 7. So in all, what I'm going to get is a positive x to the fourth minus 3 times negative x cubed, which will end up being a plus 3x cubed. Then we have negative x squared, which would become positive x squared, times negative 5, which would remain negative 5x squared, plus 2 times negative x becomes negative 2x, and plus 7 remains. So as you can see, we have no sign change from x to the fourth to 3x cubed, but we do have a sign change from positive 3x cubed to negative 5x squared. Again, no sign change from these 2 negative terms, but for the last 2, we do have a sign change from negative to positive. So very similarly to the positive zeros, we could either have 2 negative zeros, or we could have 2 less than that, which is 0 negative zeros, no negative zeros. Once again, if I had gotten 3 for that, then I could have 3 or 1. If I had gotten 4, I could have 4, 2, or 0. All right, so based on what we just discussed concerning Descartes' rule of signs, go ahead and see if you can predict how many positive and negative real zeros that this function g of x might have.